everybody. We are now at the hackathon final. Yeah, the next one. This is Anton Bardishev. Congratulations, you have the third prize. Yeah, you all did a great job. Is he here?
So I saw Sven's presentation on this Java Joker, I believe, conference where he described about MicroStream, how it works. And the very next day, I had to pass mandatory anti-money laundering training on my job, and I kept thinking that, oh wait, maybe that MicroStream that I heard of could be a good solution actually for this complicated problem. So I'm not sure if you heard the news or not. Past year, a lot of banks in Europe, including Deutsche Bank, Danske Bank, and a bunch of Swedish banks were hit by penalties and fines and whatnot because of basically because banks didn't check properly to whom they are giving the money. So the problem is can be illustrated on this nice picture which I drew in Paint in the last night. So suppose you have a company like anonymous company named Free, and it comes to your bank and it asks for a loan, like give us money, we will do completely innocent actions. You check documents, they seem fine, but now you have to check who really controls this company. So, and you see that ownership structure is following, like there is one completely innocent guy named P3 and two completely innocent companies named C2 and C4. And they control in total 100% of actions of this company. Shares, I'm sorry, I mean, like it could be a trust, it could be a shell company in other country or whatever. So, okay, so far so good. You see that only one real person which is controlling this company, but it's green. You check further, so you see company 2, trust 2, whatever. And you see that there is like some red listed person, like maybe it's some famous terrorist which is in watch list, but it controls he controls only 20% of this shares of this company, and other completely innocent guy controls 80% of this shares, which makes that this evil terrorist controls 20% from a company which controls 50% of our company, which we want to give money to, which means that he has only 10% of shares of this company, company 3. So can we work with that? Maybe not. We start investigating further, and we see that company 4 is actually controlled by company 1, which is actually controlled completely by this evil terrorist person number 1. And which means that he controls actually 100 times 100 times 40% plus 20 times 50, which means he controls 50% of the shares of the company, which means he is a beneficial person, and which means that we should probably not work with this company, or we will be hit by by sanctions. Like we will actually fund terrorism, and this is what most banks try to avoid. And yeah, so far so good. Any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
No. Okay, so
Speechless.
okay, thank you. So in
now I know the purpose of my bank. My bank tries to avoid terrorism. So
yes, I believe that everything bank tries. At least I hope so. So I also found a video of Batman Begins where it's illustrated the problem from the point of guy. Maybe if you saw this repository, you could also find the link. But whatever, I decided that's why to call this company project Batman Anti-Money Laundering, because everything is better with Batman. So I defined, I had 2 nights. I had a puppy which I had to train. I had only 2 last nights before the deadline to submit something. I started very simple. I created a bat root element, which is a root element for this project. It stores 2 sets of entries, persons, like actual physical persons, and legal entities. Legal entities, it's any company, shell, trust, whatever. So here we store link ID, so registration number, name, whatever we can use to identify the entity, and a lazy reference to where that entity actually is located. And secondly, we have this person, which and basically every single entity, be that person or company, can have a list of shares of other entities, like one company may own another company, or one person can own another company. And those are also stored in a lazy reference, so we don't need to load everything at once and keep it in memory. because the idea is that we may have a lot of data, and we might need only parts of that to access. So, and each company also should have, sorry, where is it? Not used to working in that view. And each company also may have a list of owners. So company may be owned by something and may own someone else, but person can only own someone else because slavery is not allowed. At least I hope so. Okay, and the idea of how we are going to check who owns what is pretty straightforward. I had no time to invent. I had no time to think. So basically, I perform a depth-first search. It's the only thing I remember from university. So if we want to find what person owns, we go to every single page that we find. We don't stop if we already met the entity. So we continue and we simply calculate, like with this page, 20% of this company times 50% of this company means that he controls 10% of this company. Then we go another page, 100% of this company times 100% of this company times 40% means that he controls 40%. Then we add every single page that we found, and that way we can calculate how many shares actually this person controls. Or we can go other way around from the company. We simply go who owns this company, who owns that company, who owns that. So basically the same way, but we go backwards and we terminate only when we meet a real person. Yeah, so like I said, it was very straightforward. I created a bad engine to implement this logic. Basically, we can store entities one by one, be that person or be that company. We can check if that company or entity is already stored. We can link, like this company owns as many shares of this company. And then we have those methods, three methods to find shares of a person, to find owners of a company, and a quicker, simpler way to find what companies one person even controls without calculating shares. So that's a little bit faster because we don't have to multiply floating numbers. And yes, I hacked it somehow together. I added a Helion. I'm not really sure I can pronounce it correctly. So basically, I created a bad service with SE, three very simple endpoints, like who controls what controls person, what shares does this person has, and so on. And I hacked it together. I uploaded it. I created my starter class and called it a bad main. I still believe it's my greatest joke in programming of all the time. So, and I deployed it, and sorry, I deployed it only today. I had no time before deadline because I was really out of time. So now you can actually go to my service and you can click and see like Wayne Enterprises, who controls it. We see that Bruce Wayne controls 50%, Alfred Butler controls 20%, and the other person controls only 10%. Or maybe you can go and check what does Bruce Wayne controls, and Bruce Wayne controls actually a bunch of trusts. And so I actually had to keep imaginal like references because I don't know any real companies or any real owners. I don't have access to this kind of data, and I wouldn't put it online. And also I generated like a bunch of random companies and numbers. They're all companies named with E, like a number, all the persons named with C and number. I launched Gmeter tests for some few minutes, and the results were actually pretty decent for no optimizations, for nothing. So 99% of requests are answered in 240 milliseconds. For a bank, it's like speed of sound. With 200 users connecting at the same time, it's a little bit worse, still under 1 second mostly. I really did some mistakes with memory model, and we have these awful spikes when garbage collector has to terminate everything and clean up all the unnecessary entities which I created along while calculating the path. But even without those, median speed is very good, like 80 milliseconds. It's like lightning fast. So Yes, I would say that as a starter. So I deliberately also not considered where the data comes from, because it's a really complicated matter, like from which sources we will buy it. Like in Baltic countries where I live, government actually sells the data quite legally, of course, and banks can work with that data. But maybe if a company has proxy, like in some African country, and then whatever, then maybe you need to some other data sources, and it's a question how to integrate it. It's a huge topic. It's completely out of the scope of this project. So in this project, I simply assumed that whatever we have is basically generated here in this data generator class. And in the real project, of course, it would be integrated and so on and so on. But as a starter, I personally am satisfied with how it works. And yes, that's pretty much it. So any questions?
Okay, my first question is, oops, just a second, I clicked something. My first question is, have you built it to native, tried to build it to native?
I wanted to introduce Helidon and then move to Graal VM, and I simply ran out of time. So it's still on my to-do list. I want to proceed with project further because it's a lot of topics which I myself can learn, but for now it's not. Okay, lovely. Well, why did you choose actually SE and not MP? MP looked a lot like Spring, and I'm very annoyed with Spring, and I simply wanted to try something simpler, because here we can define those endpoints like just a number of rules, no annotation magic, nothing, and yeah, I decided to try that.
Yes, and it's much faster, yes.
I also assume so, yes.
Have you tried or have you any challenges because you have created graphs instead of trees? Did you recognize something with MicroStream and graphs?
Yes, so like I said, no, I haven't said that. So when I was reading documentation, I had some time to read documentation. I kept thinking that those guys, they're lying. It can't be that simple, because it was described like you just create Java class, you can have final fields, you can have private fields, and it will all work without getters, setters, and annotations. And I kept thinking, no, it can't be that simple. Why? What are they hiding? And I hacked it together, and it actually worked. So that wasn't the issue. Like performance issues, which I discovered just today, like those spikes with garbage collectors, their issue. And secondly, I set up data generator, and I hoped to generate like at least 5 gigabytes of data. Then I would know that my VPS has only 2 gigabytes of RAM, so there is no way that all this data fits in the memory. And I know it's really working with disk, and that those guys aren't lying. But for some reasons, I maybe somehow did mistakes, and storing goes very slowly, because I store person one by one, company one by one, then every single link is also one by one. And it's slow, and in half an hour I was able to generate only 30 megabytes of data, and it's not really enough, not what I hoped for. So maybe I will have to revisit why saving is so slow, but fetching the data is faster. And with bank, we can actually afford to store data slowly outside of business working hours. We have a whole night to recalculate whatever we need, update it, and then we just have to answer on time during the day. And then we can wipe everything and start from scratch.
So one interesting thing is if you're storing graphs with MicroStream, so for me at least, I had never an issue with this. So even if I have cycles in my data, it's just working. So you're just storing it, you're reloading it. So at least it was my experience.
I assume it was some kind of my own mistake that maybe I have only one thread. I still don't exclude that maybe I have configured MicroStream incorrectly. I have 2 channels, so maybe something from that domain is incorrect. So I will need to revisit documentation, and maybe I will find where it is, because I also don't believe that it should be that slow.
Yeah. No, I'm not talking about the speed. I'm talking about the thing that you can just actually build graphs and not only trees to store and load. And this was something I really enjoyed.
Yes. So I actually built these graphs with basically I have entities which are linked by this ownership edge, and root class just gives us a link to every single entity. And however they linked, it's like another graph, and it also works. And it's I was surprised that it works kind of occasionally, so acceptably.
So, and you said you had to do a breadth first or width first,
Depth
search
first.
operation depth first.
Yeah.
We did a lot of comparison tests back in the time with graph databases, and if you search from one direction, it's fine. But if you have to go the other way around, they go down performance-wise, so it's really complicated to do. Did you have any issues with the object model design regarding your search directions?
No, I don't think I have. So every link I have is bidirectional, and so far I checked it was working. So basically the code for okay, so basically the code for searching is this so here I believe it's so simply pull out all the connections, add them in the end of the queue, and proceed. And I didn't really, at least for now, I haven't discovered any issues with that.
I think it's a cool use case. You show you just use basic collection streaming API to navigate through a decent complex data model. And for that, I think it's a good use case for that. Innovation-wise, maybe the combination of the technologies. So use Helidon with REST endpoints. So Adam's default question: how many years did you spend?
2 nights, he said.
2 nights.
So from my point of view, I would say this excellent use case because if you think about this, where Helidon shines are objects, and you can keep the objects in memory, and he traverses the objects. And we had similar use case in another project without MicroStream, just with calculations and read-only data. And this can also happen. No, you can preload MicroStream and just paralyze everything. Push this at the bank for fraud detection. You have 20 nodes without any data storage, just calculate fraud detection, stuff like this. So for this is actually excellent new use case. What I didn't thought about that previously, and what I also like that you are using the Helidon SE, not the microprofile. Because I always use microprofile, right? And Dmitry Kornilov always told me, or he said, okay, SE is faster. And for that, I mean, this is perfect case. You liked SE. For you was SE the choice, and this is I really like it, because I would choose a microprofile and said, okay, SE is simple. So Dmitry was right. So you told some people prefer SE, and I always said I cannot believe that, but you are the first use case, first developer who likes SE. Helidon.
And there's one thing I really enjoy is that you have done performance tests.
Yeah, JMeter. This is a complete solution. JMeter, nicely done, I would say.
Okay.
Can I have one comment? I didn't look deeply in the code, but your slowness sometimes may be because Helidon SE is reactive and non-blocking by its nature, right? So you can't use any blocking operations in your Helidon SE flow, right? So basically you call your RESTful service or whatever, it calls something else, and that something else calls something else. And all of this must be done the non-blocking way. So if something there in that flow is blocking, then it's not a perfect Helidon SE use case. Did you pay attention to that? in your app?
No, honestly, I haven't paid attention to that because mostly I paid attention to how to construct the engine and sorry for the background noise. And basically, Helidon was last minute addition because I really wanted to have RESTful API for the project, not just Java interface. And maybe it could be integrated better. I agree. So that is.
How long did it took to use Helidon for the integration? How much time you spend, just for Helidon?
No idea. I can maybe check and get.
No, just 1 hour, 2 hours.
Maybe approximately 1-2 hours. So yes.
Yeah, perfect. But this is a perfect case, you don't know the framework and you are able to
absolutely.
integrate in 1 hour.
I was completely new to the framework and I just wanted to have something simple on the project without any magic or magical configuration, and that was what Helidon gave me.
Cool. Fair enough. Thank you.
Well,
perfect.
So the quality I see here, and this is just for 2 nights, I saw a lot of other projects, to say the truth, with more budget and more time and really worse code. So for this, definitely a thumbs up from my side.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Also, you had very nice presentation. I wanted to tell you I was very impressed by it. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Anton.
Thank you.
Build great projects and see you at any conference, at JCon conference or Java user groups online meetups. Bye bye. Good night.